Hi and welcome to the Photography Explained podcast. I'm your host Rick, and each week I will try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 10 minutes. In this introductory episode of my brand new photography podcast, I will introduce myself to you and tell you what my podcast is all about. And just so you know, I updated and re-recorded this episode in May 2022. As quite a lot has changed since I first published my podcast in October 2020, including hopefully being able to speak and pronounce words correctly. And we'll see how we get on. Why Photography Explained then? Well, I listen to podcasts all the time, but I've never found a podcast that explains photography stuff to the level that I want things explaining, which is one thing at a time, in plain English and without the irrelevant detail. So I decided to start my podcast, and here it is. Well, why not? What do I mean by photography thing? Photography thing, it's not the best term, is it? And I'm not claiming that it is, but to be completely honest, I couldn't think of a better way of putting it. So when I say thing, I mean a single photographic thing. I mean, it could be a technical term, an acronym, a company, a product, anything really. I mean, hence thing. I mean, thing works for me, and I hope it does for you too. Most importantly, one thing at a time, which is my thing. I think that's enough things for now, don't you? I'm looking forward very much to sharing the knowledge I've built up over more than 30 years of practicing, learning and enjoying photography. I'm also looking forward to learning new things myself, including how to do a podcast, which was a real education for me. The point of my podcast is to explain things in just enough detail to help you and me with our photography and no more. I will not get bogged down in too much detail. There are plenty of other places for that. I don't have the time, patience or inclination to deep dive into everything, hence without the irrelevant detail, which is my snappy tagline. It's great, isn't it? I just want to know what I need to know to help me with my photography. I don't want to know anymore. That's how I work with my photography. It's about taking photos and doing the best that I can and getting the best photos that I can. I don't need to understand things like, to give you an example, how the camera sensor actually records an image. I'll never get my nut round that anyway. It's probably beyond my intelligence levels, but it won't help me take better photos if I understand how a sensor actually works. What I need to know is how to get the best composition and get that onto the sensor to the highest technical standards of exposure, focus and all that good stuff. Not how it works, it's about the photo. Everything for me is all about the photo and doing things as efficiently and easily and enjoyably as we can. I will try to explain each photography thing in a nice, leisurely, personal, humorous style. Let's not take this too seriously, eh? Yes, there will be digressions, there will be ad-libs along the way, and these will be based on my lifetime practice in photography and every now and then something that pops into my head that I hadn't thought about when I was writing the script. In each episode, I will give you my take on things, and where it applies, I'll tell you exactly what I do. Going back to the original introductory episode, I wrote this. There will be no editing, not to start with anyway, as I don't know how to do this yet. It will be me talking into a microphone in my office. All I will have is headings about the subject that I've come up with for the podcast episode, and notes, of course, on things that I had to do research on. That was then. This is my May 2022 update. I started editing episodes after listening to the recording of episode 102 in January 2022. There were things that I wasn't happy with, so I taught myself how to edit audio, and every episode since then has been edited by me. And once I got into the swing of editing audio, I had a light bulb moment. I thought, I need to edit all the ones I've done so far, which, well, it's more than 100 episodes of at least 10 minutes each, and editing audio isn't a speedy process, so it was a bit of a thing. I've just finished editing all the episodes, and here I am now. When you listen to an episode, if you hear me say thanks for giving me 12 3/4 minutes of your valuable time, and it's actually 10 minutes, that'll be why. I've edited out 2 3/4 minutes of the stuff that did not to be there. And between us, that's 2 3/4 minutes of rubbish. So I'm sparing you every episode around 2 minutes of that. And there was another change from the original recording plan. Originally, my plan was to write bullet points, ad-lib around them and publish an unedited episode, and that would be that. I wasn't happy with that, so I changed to carefully written, scripted episodes which I read out. I'll still allow myself ad-libs whenever I want to, but they are added to and worked seamlessly into a written script. And ever since I've done that, I think the quality of the content has gone up massively, and it's also saved me time with the blog posts. So why 10 minutes? Well, why not 10 minutes? And if an episode takes more than 10 minutes, I'm fine with that. Some do, some do not. The point of 10 minutes is that you know that I am not expecting you to spend an hour listening to me waffle on about, well, anything really. For me, there's no need. If I can explain something to you in 10 minutes, I'm happy, and hopefully you are too. A bit about me. Who am I? Who am I to tell you this stuff? I'm a photographer based in the UK. I am professionally qualified in photography, and I'm also professionally qualified in construction. So it should be no surprise to hear that I specialise in architectural photography, construction photography, real estate photography, anything with a building in it really. Nothing that breathes, moves, answers back, just buildings, that's what I photograph. Oh yeah, and I also love travel, and I love travel photography, which is normally buildings in nice places, another of my snappy taglines. I've got 4 websites at the moment. rickmcavoyphotography.com is my main website, where you can find out all about me and read my weekly photography blog, which is very good, I have to say. You can also see a small selection of my photography work there. And that website was also the home of this podcast when I first launched it, but now it's got its very own website at photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Clever, eh? I've got 2 other websites. photosofsantorini.com is a website I created all about travel photography on the wonderful Greek island of Santorini. And finally, there is paxostravelguide.com, which is a travel website about an equally wonderful Greek island called Paxos. Outside of my photography, what do? Well, I love my family, I love cricket, travel, football, reading, and listening to podcasts. And I can add to that list now, can't I? And creating podcasts. And exercise when I can be bothered. I'm a bit hit and miss for this, to be honest with you. And I also like beer and wine, after exercise that is. And in the podcast episodes, you will hear random inclusions of stuff that I've had before doing a recording, such as sandwiches, coffees, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I included it in an episode, but it's just sort of become a thing, which leads me seamlessly onto this point. You'll probably guess by now that I'm not a professional broadcaster. Far from it. Did I really need to tell you that? I'm just a normal chap talking to himself in his home office. I do that too much, to be honest with you. Right then, so where are we going from here? Well, episode 1 of the Photography Explained podcast. I'd like to say I'm excited to publish that, but I published it 18 months ago. Episode 1 will be a quick dive into what photography is. Don't worry, after this I will get very specific. I just wanted to start at the very beginning of photography with what it actually means. One last thing. Do let me know if there's something photography related that you want me to explain, and I will add it to my list on the website. And on the podcast website, you will find the transcripts for every episode, along with lots of other good stuff. Just head over to photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Okay then, thank you. I've said what I wanted to say here. I hope you enjoy my podcast, whether you start with episode 1 or head straight over to the most recent episode, or find something specific in the middle. Whatever it is you're going to listen to, I would like to thank you for joining me. You're very, very welcome, and I would love to hear from you. So please send me a photography question. Get it put on the list, and when I answer it, you'll get at least one shout out in the episode. You might get worked into the entire length of the episode. That's what's happened with a couple of questions I've had. Just want to reiterate that. The point of my podcast is to answer your questions, so please, whatever your photography question is, just send it to me, and I will answer it. Right, thank you for listening. Enjoy my podcast. Cheers from me, Rick.